Good evening. I'd like to call the Board of Education meeting for Wednesday, September 24th, 2014 to order. Can we have a roll call, please? Mrs. Schlueter.
Mr. Alexandrovich?
Here.
Mrs. Evans?
Here.
Mrs. Klein?
Here.
Mrs. Larson? Here. Mr. Nielsen?
Here.
Mrs. Witkowski?
Here.
And I'm here.
Thank you. Has the meeting been properly posted, Dr. Pats?
Yes.
Thank you. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item 3 on the agenda is community comment. Per board policy, we allow up to 15 minutes of resident comment. Would anyone like to make a comment? Please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Libor Lewandowski, 8030 West Winston Way. I'm here because of the traffic problems around Ben Franklin School. The buses have to come down 83rd Street. They have to turn around and go back out 83rd Street. It's a congestion. Also involved in all this is the parents. They line up all the way to 83rd Street on the east side of the street. Another congestion. They block driveways, turns where you can go to streets. People can't get in. Is there something wrong with this thing now? It isn't working too well. But
Oh, it's working. Oh, we can
hear you.
okay. But one of the things is that the city, or rather the school district, owns the land, 10 acres attached to Southview and in the back of the school. Now, the major city long-term plan was to have Southview Drive go through. The school district bought that 10 acres along with Faith Community Church over there and stopped that Southview from going through. Right now, they're only growing corn there. And as a taxpayer, that's ridiculous to have a piece of land sitting there growing corn when under the master plan of the city, that road should go through. Right now, because the church is there, we can't do nothing about it. But since the land is still free, and under your jurisdiction, I feel that you should place that road all the way through to Imperial to avoid all the traffic problems that are created in that thing. And you can probably, if you look at the north side of that development, if it goes through, there's probably about 10 home sites that could be built. And I don't know what lots go for, 50,000, 60,000 today, and you can get some of the money back from that. So I'm suggesting that you people consider putting that road through. I had talked to Tom Taylor, former mayor, several times about this, and I've talked to Ron Romeister about it, and I'm coming to you as a citizen and a taxpayer to release that property and put that road through. And I can't quite understand why that has to be a cornfield and just sitting there, and you're obstructing the master plan in a way, and you're creating a problem of traffic on 83rd Street. If, for instance, 83rd Street and Southview were open, the buses could come any direction, because it's a collector street. Right now, my street, I've got 2 curves in it. People park on both sides, and they go 30 miles an hour, and I can't see around the curve. Most of the traffic that I get is from the parents and the school teachers who are late. The stop sign means nothing to those people when they're late. So I'm asking for some consideration in maybe it's to your advantage, Giselle, but I think there was some issue that was bought for expansion. Well, the school went up in a small area which actually somebody didn't consider the future, and they put it in a small area. The county gave them, I don't know what it was, 2-3 acres of county parks to the school. And then this issue came up about that 20 acres that sold for $500,000. The school district paid $250,000. Faith Community paid $250,000 besides that. I don't think this is fair for the taxpayers to be growing corn when we need the traffic problem solved. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Would anyone else like to make a comment? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to item 4, approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Nielsen, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Witkowski. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Item 5, consent agenda. Would any board member like to remove an item from the consent agenda?
I have a problem with opening up the personnel report. Is that just me, or?
I saw it.
I saw,
Mine just opened here, so it's working.
There's just one item on the report.
Right, I did want to talk a little bit about that.
Do you want to remove
Yes.
item C? Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve consent agenda items A and B?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Nielsen. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of consent agenda item approval items A and B, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Okay, item, consent agenda 5C. Do I hear a motion to approve personnel report?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mrs. Witkowski, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nielsen, any discussion?
Yes, the reason I pulled it is because I know there's only one item on it, and I just know that when we did our retreat, we talked about concerns about, you know, our ability to retain staff and kind of monitoring how that's going through the year. And I believe we mentioned that we might include in this report maybe cumulative numbers, or just kind of keep adding to the report. This is like the first report of the school year. And I just wanted to bring it up and see if that was okay with everybody, that we would see that change going forward.
I would definitely be able to report to the board what our retention is, but not as part of the personnel report, but as a separate report. I could most definitely do that. I can tell you that most recently I did look at those numbers, and the number of teachers who resigned was 1.6% of our teaching staff, a total of 5. So at any point you would like that information, I certainly can report out on it. However, I don't believe it belongs as part of this personnel report itself.
Were you asking for, like in the library, a cumulative report of every employee that?
No, you would just, the next report would just move that information down, just put the next information on top. So you would just have one report, it would just roll down, and then we would have some sense as we go through the year of what's going on. Just thought it'd be convenient for the board to kind of have some idea. And we did talk about it at the retreat, so that's why I'm bringing it up.
Yes, we did talk about it.
You know, all of the personnel reports can be archived in the library, so you can look at month to month what's happened. And I certainly can report periodically, as the board would like, you know, the percent of employees that have resigned for any particular reason. I can give you a more thorough report with regard to reasons for that, but it certainly doesn't belong as part of the personnel report itself that the board approves.
Yeah, I would agree. It doesn't belong as an approval, but having it archived, I think that's useful.
Sure. I'd be happy to create a report, and we can add to it as we move along.
Do we keep the consent agenda cleaner if we, for approval, do we know we're only approving those changes as opposed to a cumulative effect, so
Correct.
I would agree.
So we could put it in the library then, under a separate
Yes.
folder?
Mhm.
Okay.
Now,
I'm
I'll
good
put
with that.
something together with regard to what's occurred at the end of last year and the beginning of this year, and maybe update it mid-year with changes, because there aren't a lot of changes. People don't retire or resign mid-year. Very rarely does that happen. And then, at least once a year, you have a report of, how many people resigned, how many retired, and what is our retention rate? And again, I just looked at that, and it's 1.6%, which is very low, actually, so we're pretty proud of that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other comments on that?
Oh, is this something that should be put to a motion to make sure that this is something that's of benefit to the entire board, not just one board member?
We'd like to.
I think that's something that we should do then.
Okay, I'd make a motion that we create a library item where we would archive monthly personnel reports.
We're already doing that, aren't we?
We don't do that monthly.
Yeah, that's
I
what
mean,
we have
this is what it's
already.
called, it's called the personnel report. We do it monthly, right?
The personnel report you approve. You approve hires and resignations of certified contracted personnel. I think what you are asking for is that I provide a report annually that identifies information about our retirements and retention in the district, and that I update that throughout the year and keep that record in the library.
That was something Tim had asked for previously. I don't remember what that discussion was, but it was a while back. We talked about having the board be aware of how many people each year leave, and so on and so forth. So I think we already had that in the works, and Judy was planning on that.
Correct.
Are these personnel reports, after approved, hires, resignations, whatever, put in the library as it is now?
I'm
Not-
not entirely sure. I don't
Not the
believe so.
hires, no.
But we can definitely archive them in the library.
Where I was gonna go is if we just, when we approve a personnel report, whatever's on it, if that just goes, just like the minutes,
It goes in the library now.
just goes in the library, we would have an entire record of any changes. If we wanted to look back 3 months to see who we
It's
brought
already
in,
there.
and it's already there?
Yep.
Yeah, that was my understanding, what was already happening.
When you say in the library, do you mean in the, under the meeting folder, or in the library and only this item is in a folder? That's different than,
Where do you put it, Meg?
The personnel report is a private item, so only the board can see the information about the staff.
Mm-hmm.
So when you approve it, it does not automatically go to the library. The minutes automatically are published once you approve it, because that's a public document.
But you can put that in the library in a segregated area so only the board can look at it, and that's what we're
It's
asking
not
for.
automatic, but it can definitely be done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Create a folder called personnel reports, because it'll be accumulative.
We can
Yeah.
do it, yes.
That's just an operational thing that we can do easily.
Yeah.
So you still need the motion?
No. I don't think so. Not if we're already doing it. Or not if
okay, I'll withdraw my motion. Since it wasn't second, I guess there wasn't any.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Okay. Then we have a motion by Mrs. Witkowski, second by Mr. Nielsen to approve consent agenda item 5C. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Thank you. School board announcements. Any announcements?
I'd like to share that the foundation, as part of their auction, have a kind of a wonderful raffle item here. It's the Final Four package, tickets, accommodations for 4 people, sports fans. If you're interested, I have some tickets to sell. They're $25 each. And if you want to grab
How many
one,
tickets are sold?
I'm sorry?
Do you know how many tickets are sold?
It's a limited number, so I'm feeling good about the odds, so. Not that I would put the odds out there. And then also, I wanted to share with the board that I am having my first meeting with the Policy and Resolutions Committee this Friday evening and Saturday with, as part of WASB, so. And we were reviewing all of the resolutions that were submitted, and not that many this year, so you'll hear about those later, I think.
Thank you. Anything else?
The marching band for the high school did a exhibition at Germantown this weekend, and then 10-4, which is a Saturday in the evening, they'll be at the Greendale marching competition.
The picture on the website looks really sharp.
Yes.
You over there.
Could I just remind the board that next Tuesday, the 30th, FAPSU in collaboration with the police department and the city and various organizations has their night presentation on heroin, so that starts at 6:30 at the Sabre Center.
What time, what day?
6:30 on Tuesday, the 30th.
That notification went out via email, I think I saw that. How did we connect with the community on that? Or was that only through the schools?
It's
Through the community.
Yeah.
That's-
the community, the health department,
Police department.
police department.
So they were putting out their notifications too, trying to,
Yeah,
okay.
it's city newsletter. I was at the adult health fair today, and we had a booth there for that also. And
Okay.
even a lot of senior citizens are interested in going because we're talking about locking up prescriptions for the grandchildren that come to their homes. So, yeah. I received the board here at the board table, a letter from Chief Oliva thanking the board for participating at the National Night Out. He said it was a success, and he thanks the board for their participation. If anyone would like to see the letter, pass it both ways. Any other announcements? Thank you. School board calendar, regular board meeting Wednesday, October 8th, 2014, here at the ECC at 6 p.m., and a regular board meeting Wednesday, October 29th, here at 6 p.m.
Just a reminder, we'll have a special meeting on October 6th. You were all made aware.
And I'm not able to attend that. I did respond accordingly, but you're set, correct?
We should be okay.
Okay, item 8, liaison reports. Mrs. Klein has the Community and Governmental Relations Report, Homecoming Parade.
Yeah, I asked to have this added to the agenda, just to gauge who's going to be there tomorrow night at the homecoming parade and to give you guys the details. I do have confirmation from a few board members. If you haven't told me already that you're coming, you can let me know after the meeting. I think we're going to have plenty of people. Lineup is at 5 o'clock on 51st and Hunting Park Drive, which is just north of Putes. And the parade actually starts at 5:30. I have, in the email that I sent you guys, I mentioned that the theme this year is Under the Sea. I still have not come up with any creative ideas for any decorations or anything. So does anybody have anything that they'd like to share?
Alan was going to bring a plexiglass, little-
Wait.
did you not?
Al was gonna get dimensions.
Yeah.
And provide the plexiglass, but didn't
It's
get
in
him,
process.
it fell through.
Okay.
I just had a suggestion. I did this for my daughter quite a while ago. She was and Janet saw this too, that she was a jellyfish. And it takes some doing, but you can do that. I mean, we made one of those umbrella hats and just put like iridescent stuff over it and tendrils hanging down, and that were her tentacles. Just something out there. I looked online, and a lot of stuff is expensive, even for like car magnets and stuff, and so.
So are you suggesting that she would be our jellyfish?
Well,
or
I
that-
can't find the
That we
costume.
would all wear,
I don't
be
remember if we threw
jellyfish?
it away or not. I'm still looking in my area. But if you had an umbrella, one of those umbrellas that go like this, a clear one, you could just attach ribbon, and it looks like a jellyfish.
Right, right.
Like light pinks and purples and things, so that was just an idea, but that would be kind of difficult. You'd have to hold that and your candy at the same time,
Oh,
so
that's
there's. Or you could just have whoever's driving
So I just can't put water wings on or anything like that?
For those of us who have no
I'm not wearing
creativity whatsoever.
Why don't you go to the party store and buy some fish? They have all those balloons. You could just buy some and hang them on a car that have
Oh, that's a
sealed
good
things.
Looks like a
That'd
fish.
be very easy, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
The
idea.
party store.
Okay. And if anybody wants to do the clear umbrella thing, I don't have one personally, and I don't know where I'd find one with short notice, but,
You can just
but if
tape it or
anybody wants
staple
to,
it or
you're certainly
something.
welcome to. Otherwise, I'll put some balloons on the car. And I'm willing to drive Kevin's car. Amy also offered her husband's truck, so, you know, I'm not set on the car
Yeah, it
necessarily,
doesn't
but.
matter. I just need to know so I can get a car wash.
Melissa, do we park on like Hunting Park or,
You're better off to
No.
park in the high school
Park in the high
parking
school
lot
lot.
and walk
and
down.
walk down? Okay.
Yeah.
That's not that far.
Then your car's right there at the end, so. And I think that was all. I've got some candy left from the 4th. I'm getting the rest from Megan tonight. And we'll see you all tomorrow, I guess.
Had we known, we could have gotten Swedish fish.
Oh, my. We could have.
And just so you know, they do get tight with the traffic. If you go north on 51st from Pewds, they may or not let you in, so be careful, get there early.
Okay, the rest of us just wear what? Just Franklin
Well,
colors?
Franklin.
Franklin colors are always appropriate for homecoming,
Your
yes.
mermaid
Jellyfish.
costume.
My
Slippers and a
mermaid
mask.
Your merman costume.
Slippers and a mask.
That's what I,
Scuba
talked about it,
Steve.
yeah. Do you have flippers and a mask already? Have a mask and a snorkel? Can
Oh,
we
that
see?
would work too. That would work too.
Wetsuit?
You're creative. Wetsuit.
Just one of those blow-up inner tubes?
Totally, absolutely. That would
All
be
right.
great.
I'll see what I can find at the party store, and
Or the dollar store even.
dollar store's even better.
Okay,
Okay, thanks, guys.
thanks.
You have an idea?
We can get them after the meeting, maybe.
Yeah, maybe after the meeting you can talk to us. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, item 8B, Mrs. Witkowski, Finance Liaison Report, Bank
Yes.
Change and Treasurer's
Yes.
Report.
Talked to Jim, and we are in the process of changing our general fund to the new bank, BMO, from JP Morgan and Chase. The banks were already approved at the beginning of the year. They were on our list, but we are just moving the money, the main fund, to BMO. And I'm sure that it's for financial reasons that we have negotiated
Right, right. We will-
favorable terms that will benefit the district.
Exactly. We plan to save money on this.
And then also, I wanted to follow up with the last meeting. You may notice that the printed treasurer's report is now in the library. However, the public library is only the first page, the cash balance of the report. Jim and I are kind of talking about whether the additional pages that are fund-related were part of that report, since if you look at our treasurer's report in the board's library, we can see the cash balances, and then the general fund expenditure revenue, and then other couple funds. So there's some inconsistency between what the public would see under treasurer's report and what the board is seeing. And I think we should share the whole report. Jim, is there any reason why we wouldn't share the whole report?
Well, the only change we made was to go from verbally saying the bank balances to putting them in the report. So from what the public sees, they're just going from hearing them verbally to being able to see them and access them really at any time to see those bank balances. They didn't see the other reports before, and they're not seeing them now. So that's how we ended up where we are.
Is there any, again, I think we could share it with the public. Is there, I don't know, I'd be interested in hearing what other board members think.
Have we had anybody ask for it?
No. If we take a look back at the last meeting, what we talked about with the treasurer's report is just simply, the discussion was looking at the treasurer's report and not reading it anymore and taking that information and putting it in the library. And then Melissa brought up the issue of whether, how we would make the public aware of that, and Jim said that he would make sure he made notations of that and put it in the library, and that's where the discussion ended.
So then, just to clarify then, the board feels the treasurer's report is just the cash balances, and those other financial reports are other financial reports? Or what, how do we view those other, does everybody know what I'm talking about as far as the other pages that are typically provided?
You talk about like the Fund 10 report and?
Correct. So that will just remain internal? Is that what we're saying? Everybody's nodding yes.
I don't,
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't have any big opinion one way or the other. I mean, I don't know why it wouldn't be a problem to just put it out there. I don't know that there's a whole lot of people that are looking in that section anyway. But if someone wanted to know, it's not like we would tell them you can't find out. So if there's a report and we're posting a report, I don't really see a problem with just posting the whole report, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm saying, we're saying the same thing, then why don't we just post a report?
Well, yeah, but I mean, right.
So,
I don't have a problem with posting the whole report. I agree with you. I don't think many people are going to really ask about it anyway. But if someone were to ask, we wouldn't tell them, well, we're not going to tell you. It's there. So we can just say, we can just point them right to the spot where it is in the library.
okay, so at this point, we're gonna, well, we can, like I said, small changes, we'll see where this is at and go from there. So, thank you.
Was that it? Oh, because I wanted to bring up when you had treasurer's report, possibly putting treasurer's report in, under consent agenda, just approving treasurer's report, that we have it in,
It's on our agenda for the
that it's on
public
our
to know.
agenda, that, okay, we're putting it on file. You know,
That's correct, I wanted to do that also.
just,
But we've never approved a treasurer's report before.
well,
It really shouldn't go under the consent agenda because it's not an action item. It's a report.
Why don't we just keep it under reports, and even though you're not having something to read, you would be able to say the treasurer's report has been posted to the
yeah, just
library, and
that,
then if
just
there's
so
a
we
board member
acknowledge
that would
it.
have any question on it, that would be the time to ask any questions of the treasurer.
Okay,
That's easy.
Yeah,
All right,
you're
we'll do
right,
that.
you're right.
Done.
Good idea.
If we could just go with the first part of that, because I'd like to get questions early if you've got questions on it. Like, I always put that on there, if you got questions, give me a call. I'd like to get them that way so that I have time to look at it. But I think, good point, by saying, yes, the treasurer's report's there and it's filed and you can take a look at it anytime you want, that does what you're looking for. Gives the public an idea of what happened and where to look.
Yeah, you're right. What I should have said was if there was a need or a desire for board discussion about anything in that, then that would be the place that we could do it. But you're right, questions should be asked beforehand.
Right, because you don't want to come to this item every time and have dead silence and say, are there any questions? Where
No.
that wasn't what we did before either. We didn't ask for questions. We just said what it was. And you don't want to make it seem like for board members, they have to find something to ask now to fill this time, or they were supposed to, or whatever. You just want to get the point across that it's there and you can look at it if you'd like to, if you're the public.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? All right. Next is item 9, board discussion, action items, board goal update discussion. Do we have a chair of the committee, or do?
Well, we have co-chairs, I guess, Debbie and
We have
and
3
Amy.
co-chairs.
Maybe I'll kick it off by just saying, we met, was it last week?
Last week,
Last
Monday,
week,
I think it was.
To take a look at the board goal and to start putting some structure to it in terms of what we thought the goal would need for it to be accomplished. And if you guys want to go from there,
I don't know, it was a productive meeting.
It was.
We all had rather similar ideas, I thought. And we sort of developed a timeline as to how we wanted to work. And I think you all got that email saying that that postcard was going to go out. Yes?
No.
Okay.
Was it?
I think that the crux of what we talked about was
No?
the goal.
Okay.
It didn't go yet, I don't
Okay.
think. The goal was
Maybe
to
I saw
make
it.
sure that the facility, as we look at a 3-year lookout, as well as the programming for the district was coordinated. With the high school, we made significant gains in that area, but in our discussion, our primary focus is middle school. Not only from the facility standpoint, but from the programming that goes into that, which also carries down to the elementary, because currently we do a 5-6 configuration, I guess you could say, and I know Wendy spends a lot of time making sure that that sort of has a middle school touch to it. So they really are integrated quite a bit. But the other thing we talked about is one of the best things that we've done in this district for a number of years is the only way we can get good community input is through a survey method. No other means gets the return that we've done. On the last referendum, we got substantial information. 2 years before that, when we did a programming survey, we got a lot of information. So we wanted to take a look at doing that kind of a thing and having Bill Foster from School Perceptions come in, talk to us, give us some ideas and see what we thought. Again, this was an idea exchange more than anything. And then the other thing we talked about is a little bit of a timeline to get going on this with informational types of things that through a postcard that we would be looking for some community input to serve on the committee. And then that the committee, or the community meetings themselves, I think we had in January, February, mid-year, maybe it was
Around
December,
there, yeah.
January,
It
somewhere's
was
in
very
there.
loose.
And then just trying to flush all the little details out, taking a look at survey results and so on. And I'm doing all the talking, I should probably let you guys talk.
Well, the email that I was referring to came out on September 16th, and it said it went out to all board members.
Facilities Programming Committee?
Yeah, yeah, it just says, as a result of the board goal development meeting, Amy, Debbie, and Steve, the district will be seeking community volunteers to serve on a facilities and programming committee. You'll see a message in the city newsletter, which will come out in October, and further communications are in the planning stages. If a community member wishes to serve on that committee, they should contact Steve or Megan by phone or email.
I think we're, if I'm correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, Debbie and Amy, we're at a point now where we wanted to give this update and also to see if you had any input, and then for us to go back and meet again to talk about, okay, now here's what some of the thinking was, and that may change the direction and so on and so forth. So we're not doing anything, it's planning more than anything.
Right.
And there's two schools of thought that I came across. We'd like to make the middle school improved so that we can have the 6 to 8 configuration in order also to make room for 4K possibly in the elementary school. And there's two ways I'm looking at it, that people are very amped and excited about the new high school, the new outcome, the bigger high school, and maybe they're going to be excited now about the middle school because a lot of people, not many people are invested in the middle school. And so maybe that will help. The flip side of that is they're going to be like, well, we just did the high school, let's wait. So there's two different thoughts and processes that could be coming. So I think the community output, seeing what they have to say about that, that's what I want to hear. I want to see not just my kids' parents, I want to see what Mr. Lewandowski says, or whoever who don't have kids, to see what they feel about it too.
I guess, I understand the surveying, as we did last time with the referendum, but we didn't have a community committee, though, in that process, so.
No.
Right.
What is the function of this committee?
This committee is to take a look at, part of it would be the survey results, part of it would be depending on what plans move forward. For example, if the middle school was the plan, or if something else was the plan. We have some significant needs in the district at the high school that remain in terms of locker rooms, boys and girls locker rooms. And I say that from a Title IX perspective, that, and we have a Phase 2 tentative master plan that would incorporate that, but I don't think for a second we'll be able to do that in line with anything we do at the middle school. It's going to have to be chunked out so much. But I also think that since the high school project has been taking place, I've heard a few comments. I can't tell you I've heard 30, but I've heard a few comments like, what are you gonna do with the middle school?
Right.
And so I think that part of our thinking was to get, community perspective on the committee. We'd have certainly school board, we'd have administrative staff and so on and so forth, just to put together a plan. To Amy's point, we may get to that point where we say, yes, now's the time to push forward hard, or we might say, now's not the time to do that, which is exactly what we did with the last referendum. For the first few years after the last referendum, we would have been crazy to go out and try to do anything because the community just wasn't ready for it for a variety of reasons. So this was more of an opportunity to say, if we move forward, one of the things we have to do is get some baseline information via the survey, and then to get a committee representation that we would say, okay, now here's our planning. What do we want to take a look at? How do we want to move forward? And then bring that back to the board, and so it's always give and take, so to speak, bringing information forward. But it would take the whole year, obviously.
It's simply fact-finding. I mean, that's
Yeah.
where we are. We just want to put some feelers out there and see what the community says. You know, we may just hear how great the high school is, or they may say you should have done this at the high school, or just whatever. It's fact-finding. That's all.
So the committee would be reporting to the board?
Oh, absolutely, yeah,
Facts,
definitely, yeah,
or,
yeah. I mean, and the board, we would be reporting to the board every step of the way. You know, here's what Bill Foster said. We would probably have Bill Foster come in and again, meet with the rest of the board and tell us what he's thinking, what his interpretation of the data is and that thing, just like we did before. I think the community really appreciated the way that we did go out to the referendum before. With all the information that we had community input, we really listened to our community, and I think they appreciated it. So once we're on a roll and we know what our community wants and expects of us, I think we have to go with that momentum. And just as Dr. Pat said, they may say, slow down, we don't want anything. Everything's good as is, and then that's what we do. We do what our community tells us to do.
And that's another part of it. You will always, in a survey, get different perspectives coming back. Maybe somebody might say, well, I think we should build an early learning center, something like that. And as a district, we feel, no, our number one priority right now should be the middle school. I think it is incumbent upon us in terms of knowing what we need as a district to be able to float out there. We're not asking for 30 things or what should we do now type of environment. It's we believe that now we should be looking at the middle school in terms of, and primarily the middle school, and how it affects programming at the middle school level as well as the elementary level, and the need for space up there and all those kinds of things.
And I think the main key is the programming. That's what we're looking at, is programming for our students.
To what extent, though, does the master plan that guided our work, the work that we're seeing now, is that, do we start with that master plan, or are we flushing it out, or how does this work relate to that other work?
That master plan was, the master plan that we have in place was primarily for the high school and that site. When we went to referendum last time, we did have a plan of what we would do with the middle school, but we also, I think we came to an agreement, we need to get some fresh eyes on that as well. That what we saw last time was a solution, but I think there's probably, might be better solutions out
So
there.
we're kind of rethinking, like you
Yes.
said, fresh eyes at that.
Yes.
So the committee would come down to the board with a recommendation as to what the next step would be?
Each step of the way. So
Because when I read the email, it sounded like things were kind of already in motion, but that's clearly not what you guys were talking
That
about.
was just a laid out
an
plan, we
idea
had to
of-
come out of there with something, because if we go into ventures like this and everybody just sort of throws everything in the wind, we'll get nowhere. We have to have some sort of structure to it early on to say, we believe we need a survey, we believe we need community involvement, we believe we need a timeline, we believe that the middle school is our top priority, so there were some things that we felt that were sort of the baseline for, here's what's important right now. And then we talked about those things like, if we go middle school, we need fresh eyes. We just can't take that out the plan we had and say, okay, this is what we got now. We need to take a look at that.
What would be the timeline on the survey when we're thinking about putting something like that together?
Well, as a matter of fact, I talked to Bill Foster the other day, and he doesn't think we should get into the survey until probably after the holidays.
Okay.
And, which is what we did with the other one too, if I recall right, so. But so what that does is it gives us a little time to meet again, maybe as a group, and say, okay, did the board have anything they wanted us to consider? And then for us to take a look at, maybe some sample surveys, show them to you, here's what we're looking at, here's how we would do that. We already Megan, did we get that little blurb in the last city newsletter?
It'll come out in October.
Okay, we do have something in the city newsletter about if you're interested in serving on the committee, let us know, that kind of thing. So it's more structural and organizational and putting some timelines together. In the meantime, it gives us a chance to tap into Wendy and Mike and everybody to talk about, okay, one of the things we have to have is when people say why, we have to have answers. So if programming is part of this, which it certainly is, people are going to say, what programming? For what? What will this do for that programming? Why is that different? Can't we do that now? And we have to have, that's the kind of legwork we have to do in the interim, you know, right after we go into, prior to going into a survey, so we can have really legitimate questions.
So do you have in mind a committee's, how many are going to be on the committee and?
No, not 60 people. You know, I would say we're going to have, we didn't even talk a number.
Yeah, we didn't even.
Or
go
like,
that far.
we're not going to lower it up with middle school people, we need to, are
No,
you?
it'll be a cross-section, so there's administration, there's staff, there's community, you know, parents.
Well, and that's the nice thing about putting it in the city newsletter. You're opening it up to the whole community. You're not just targeting those parents that are going to have students at the middle school. You're opening it up to everybody, you know.
What, do you-
The
could you have
Mr.
more than you need?
Lewandowski's and things like that.
Okay.
Pardon me?
Could you have more than you need if you don't know
Well,
what
that's
you're
what you
trying to
have.
fill? You don't, it's hard
Yeah,
to.
you can't have more than you need. You got to set some boundaries and say, we're going to have a committee of, you know, I can't even give a number. X number of people from the community will be involved in this, and the identification of community, we need to define. Does community mean everybody that's not a parent? Does it mean that it's a parent or not a parent? You know, so maybe we want that, because we want some people that, you know, have been out there that don't have kids, as Debbie said, that don't have kids in the district. We want to hear their voices too, and we want to hear from the parents, and, you know, so we'll have our voice, that's for sure.
Right, but I feel like that's why the referendum was successful last time. I think we really listened to our community, and now we're asking for more input from them, and I think no matter what we decide to do as a board, I think we can be successful at it.
I had a question about the timing. Was hoping you could clarify. The committee won't be formed before the survey goes out. It would, or, I mean,
Not
will they
before-
help develop what the questions are going to be on the survey, or that'll be done ahead of time and they'll just
So
help
they'll
interpret
probably
the results?
be involved in that process too.
Okay.
Because, you know, we want to bring an expert in like Bill, who's got knowledge on this up the wazoo, and he can bring people in, because surveys are critical in how they're worded, what questions you ask.
Absolutely.
And it can't be a survey that's, hey, everybody, what should we do now? It's got to be, as a district, do we agree that we're looking at middle school, do we are looking at whatever it might be, and then structure those questions according to that focus.
Right. Okay, good.
So they would, so answer your question, yes, they would be involved before the survey goes out.
Okay.
Are we looking to get, ultimately, to get information to see where we want to best put some of our district resources? Or are you talking about a potential timeline for another referendum?
To be honest, we'd be talking about a timeline for a potential referendum, because that will be asked of us. We won't be able to piecemeal this by doing it $500,000 at a time, because there's too many factors. Like, we couldn't do the road and say, well, we'll do the building later on, because we'll tear that road up when we go do the building, and we'll have wasted that money, because the trucking and everything like that will just tear it up. So it's, the reality is, and you know, we were very transparent last time, the reality is this may go to referendum, but right now, we're just wanting to get information to be able to say at a point in time, based on the survey, and based on what we're hearing from community after we have community meetings of some kind, okay, you know, it's a go, or they're not ready for it, you know, that kind of thing. Because ultimately, they have to decide it anyway.
Well, I'm glad you got an early start, you know, you got working on it right away, but I just think it's important to remember that it is a goal and a whole board goal, so it's important to keep reporting to us, and that a committee doesn't make decisions on their own, so you have to keep coming back to the board. Even if you have a committee of the public, they can come here too and report with you, so.
Committees are strictly advisory. They're
Yeah.
nothing more. They're not decision-making.
So thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, thanks a lot for your time, guys.
Thanks. Okay, reports and presentations. Human Resources Report, third Friday enrollment. Dr. Miller.
It's actually less of a report. I did post today our third Friday numbers. It's still unaudited, meaning we still carefully check to make sure that it's correct, because it is tied directly to funding. And again, it takes at least a few days to get to this point, and then there'll be days after this in which we're still checking those numbers. But I did want you to see what the numbers look like at this point.
And if I could make a comment, Judy and I just talked today, these numbers are always in flux. For example, between the time this report was given out and Judy and I having a discussion today, it changed by 3. In in just a matter of 2 days.
Correct. Three
3
new
days.
students have enrolled.
So even though we have certain numbers in certain places, it can change and does change frequently throughout the year.
This may be, I might not be understanding this correctly, but I know there's that policy about the guidelines of how many students should be in each class, and I know that there are classes that have more than the policy states. How do you address that?
The policy itself indicates that 10% of our classes throughout the district can exceed class
Okay.
size, so we are well within that range.
Okay, I just know a lot of parents are not happy with having 31 kids in their class,
Right, I
Or-
understand that.
28 for the younger kids or whatever. I just,
You talking about Robinwood?
no.
Country Dale looks like,
Mhm.
some of these are getting
Country Dale's
scary
pretty
looking.
big.
Southwood Glen's getting high too. I mean, Country Dale and Robinwood, of course. But
We have a very large sixth grade class. As that
Yeah.
class moves to the middle school next year, things will look a little better. Where there are larger class sizes, we do provide educational assistance to support in those classrooms.
Okay.
Also, 5-6 is running somewhat like content-based. I guess it is running content-based, so the teacher will teach 5th and 6th grade students, so they're not necessarily
Right.
having 30 students all day.
Right.
But these numbers are less than last year, so Jim will have to project differently, or, but teacher-wise, we're not hiring any teachers to it, or we're not adjusting any of the teaching staff
No,
relative to the,
at this point, we do not plan to add any teaching staff. Again, we'll have.
and actually, we have less students, so it wouldn't be warranted, correct?
Well, you would add a teacher if a class really got quite large, you'd have to. Even if overall the population of students in the district was lower, if there was, a very large class, we might bring in a teacher at some point because it gets unrealistic in terms of physical space, it's just not appropriate. So, but at this point, we're monitoring it very closely and we're providing a lot of support. The children are older for the most part in those classes where there are larger class sizes. So,
Well, and the district total is only down by 6 students, so that's not very significant overall.
And you said, what, 2 kids enrolled since
Three.
this came out? 3?
Three.
Okay, so we're only down by
Yeah.
3 then.
So overall, it
worries
shouldn't
there.
affect the budget.
Well, the budget assumed that
Significantly.
there'd be 20 more, correct?
Right, it's not a big change budget-wise.
Any other discussion? I thank you for putting this together. Okay. Superintendent's report, Dr. Pats.
Yes, I attended the SWSA meeting last night. That involves all of the 32 of the area schools and so on. And at this particular meeting, we had Brian Pankey from the DPI. He works in the finance department, and along with Governor Walker. Just to give you a couple of highlights of pieces of information. When we talk about, education in Wisconsin and where the money goes, actually the tech colleges received the greatest increase last year. They went from $100 million to $400 million. So it wasn't necessarily a public schools. The K-12 environment, it was the tech schools. There are 257 districts in our state that have declining enrollment as we speak. And when they say that, it's, I wouldn't consider us declining enrollment because we're down a little bit. This is over time, and it's pretty significant. The free and reduced populations, they're finding out that throughout the state, a lot of people in the smaller rural areas are moving to the suburbs and so on for jobs and so on, and that's really creating a problem, especially in the northern tier part of the state. As far as a fiscal item for next year, or for the upcoming biennial budget, there will be no per pupil expenditure increases, which means we'll get what we got this year, but there isn't an anticipation to get more. But Tony Evers' budget has not come out yet, and so we'll see what's going to happen. They are considering, the governor's office is considering $30 million more to the choice program, which is really a contentious issue for everybody. The choice issue is one thing, and the governor talked about that. I'll talk about that in a minute. But our biggest objection to that from a K-12 perspective is there's no accountability. They do not meet anything that we have to do in terms of gaining state aid. It's just, here's your money, do what you want, and we think you're going, and you see a lot of those choice schools over time fall off the cliff, so to speak. The governor then spoke, and he was given, or we were given a very limited amount of time. We had to have preset questions, and so he was ready, so let's put it that way. But he talked about the Common Core, and one of the things that they intend to do is not necessarily disband it, but modify it. He did say that we need reasonably high standards that reflect, what the concerns of everyone, so he did a lot of political talking. Again, he talked about the private choice issue. He gave the analogy of his kids when they were going to be seniors in the Wauwatosa School District, had the option of going to Marquette High School or his high school, and his message was, I wanted my kids to have a choice, whatever that meant. And so that's his big push in terms of his support for vouchers and so on, is he just thinks that kids should have opportunities for choice, whether it be because certain school districts have better programming or because they're felt to be better academically. And with that, oftentimes in his analogy, he said going to Marquette was a considerable price tag issue, so that's why they didn't go. But everybody in the room made it very clear to him that our big concern was you can't keep taking money away from public schools and putting it into the charter, number one. And you can't keep putting money into charter schools without having some accountability. And we asked them flat out, do you intend to make sure that they abide by some of the rules, or not some, all the rules that we abide by? And we didn't get a clear answer, as you might expect. He said, we're working on ways to make sure that they're accountable, and, we don't know what that means. I don't know that anybody knows what that means, so. It was actually a worthwhile event to attend, but it does show the politics of everything, and nothing is for certain. We know that he's a proponent of vouchers, and we know that the state funding next year will be tight again. We'll get our allotted increase, hopefully. That's not set in stone either. So that was a pretty good meeting. And then in terms of the construction update, that's going well. We still got a lot of little nicks and things to fix, and we're still working on reducing the moisture content in the concrete in the central commons, which is the area as soon as you walk in the main door. That's going to have carpet and tile in it and furniture and so on. It's bare right now because we can't do anything with it. We just have to get the moisture out of there. So it's a wait and see attitude, but things are going pretty well. We did, to the gentleman that addressed the board last time regarding furniture, I don't know if you recall, but last year we housed 2 classrooms with new furniture, the furniture that we have now, and let the kids try it out. And then we asked them what they liked, what the teachers liked, the flexibility of it. But the premise was that we don't want teachers putting kids in rows and teaching them anywhere. That's outdated and antiquated instructional practice. We want them moving around. We want them to be able to put desks together, tables together, whatever it might be. And currently in our high school, particularly the new additions are the only ones that got new classroom furniture. We have probably 4 or 5 different types of furniture in there, and I made it a point, even before that gentleman was here, to go to the high school every day, and I would talk to kids, how do you like the furniture? We love it. He made reference to the small pad that was on it. It's not designed to be a desk. It's designed to be a place where you can put your laptop or maybe a short note-taking pad or whatever, and even at that case, it's not full of those in the classroom. There's 3 or 4 of those in a given classroom. The kids actually sort of not fight for them, but first come, first serve, and those are filled up first. So we have no intention of sending any furniture back. We very much like what we have. I'm sure we have people that don't like this or that, and it would be something that somebody who maybe hasn't been in a school for 20 years would walk in and say, what the heck is this? Because we've got cafeteria tables and some, we've got the spin-around desks, we've got the ones that he referred to and so on. So we like what we did. We took a look at a lot of alternatives last year when we were planning for this, so it's nothing that we plan to address because we think it's in pretty good shape. Regarding the Chromebook update, just to I'm sorry, go ahead.
So, is there any plans for a public open house? Some people ask, unless you attend an event, there's no way to get in and take a look, or?
Right, and the only reason we haven't done it is because it's still under construction. There's still so many things that, I don't want the public to walk in there and say, okay, but I want them to see the finished product, so to speak.
Do you have a target that when you might? Because they see it, they drive by.
Sure.
Is there?
Well, and a lot of them have already seen or will be seeing the Sabre Center, so that's, but as far as the classroom, the Central Commons, and a lot of the other areas that are wild, that's going to be, as we've said a number of times, that construction will go on through the first of the year, at least, but, we might be able to take a look at something a little bit more special for the Sabre Center, but that'll be sort of old news, and we want to sort of do it all as a package when we get to it. Jen?
Can I ask about the little section north of where the softball field's going? What just happened there? It looks like it was just...
They just took some topsoil out of there, is all they did. We were getting water setting in there,
Okay,
so they graded it off.
resurfaced?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So they'll be replanting that. And they're still working on the practice fields.
I've
too.
noticed they've done a lot of work on to the pond too, that I guess I wasn't aware of. Is that just to improve drainage and so forth?
It's to require DNR. For all the additional parking spaces we've added, you have to have an allotted amount of drainage pond for that water to go to if there is a
Detention
substantial
pond, right?
detention pond.
Yeah.
And so it had to be dug out deeper and it had to be made wider. And if you went by there today, you saw there's nice trees around it now, so it's looking nice. But yeah, that was a requirement that we had to do that. And we also have another retention pond. It would be north and east of the softball field that's going up. We had to put one back there as well. So that's why we got short space.
Steve, we should have naming rights for the new lake in Franklin.
I was wondering too, to piggyback off of Janet's or Linda's question, can we, as a board, I mean, have a tour at some point in the near
Absolutely.
future? I mean, I'm willing to wait till the Commons is done, but I feel like a lot of people have seen it and I haven't yet.
Yeah. No, and I can do it individually if you like, or if you want to schedule something as a board, we can do that.
Okay.
You know, right now, the Performing Arts Center, I mean, we're still working little tweaks of this needs to be painted and that needs to
Sure,
be fixed,
sure.
but the classrooms are all, you know, doing well. We're in the office now. We're still unpacking boxes and trying to figure out where things are going to go there.
The band's all in their new space?
Yes.
Course and
Yep.
all that?
Yep, so overall, there's a lot to see if you haven't been in there. When was the last time?
I think it was May.
Is that long?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
There were no seats in the auditorium or anything.
No, it was pretty much
It was all
concrete.
real
Just a
bare.
shell, yeah, at that point.
We were there
Put
not
something
too long
together
ago.
to get everybody out there for a
September,
tour, some meeting.
Before a board meeting?
Can do that, or if you want to call me, we'll take you through there anytime, day or night. We've had a number of people that have wanted to go through. I was told today that Lance Allen and some other person they do Preps Live or something on the weekend, but they came in, we were shooting a lot of footage of the high school today. That'll be on TV, I think, this weekend, Sarah said, so. But certainly, yeah, we want you to come in there and see it.
Yeah. I hear great things from the kids.
Kids seem to like it, you know, we're talking to them
You know,
quite a
A
bit.
days, my son is happy because all of his classes are in the new part.
And then regarding the Chromebook, I had Luann just put some cheat notes for me together, and then she'll be giving a more substantial report on it later. We issued over 1,700 Chromebooks in both the middle school and high school. It went extremely well. As a matter of fact, we've gotten a number of comments back from staff saying how well it was organized and so on, so that's really a tribute to our tech people, Luann and everybody that got that involved. They really did a nice job. And I think it was mentioned before, the kids were responsible for unpacking them, getting them set up, putting them in their laptops and so on. The biggest glitch we've had so far is we've had some battery issues with many of them, so we sent those back and then they would overnight us some new computers. We had a Chromebook camp, so the kids knew how to fire them up and get going and practice with them a little bit. As I said, the vendors have been really good to work with. Some of the stuff that teachers have been using for are things that we wanted them to be using for: writing, research, taking a look at electronic textbooks, accessing different resources on the web and so on and so forth. So what we had intended them to be for has worked out well so far. I think after the first quarter, we will go back in and take a look at sort of assessing, okay, truly how much are teachers using them, how much are the kids using them. Let's see some evidence of that. That was always our big concern, is let's not buy money just to say we've got them. Let's make sure that we're using them. There was a question, Tim brought up a really good question just for clarification regarding the Chromebooks and as far as their use for Carnegie Math. They were never intended to be used for that, just like our old ones weren't. And by the way, our old computers are only a year old, some of them brand new and some of them maybe 2 years old, but those were not be able to be used for homework. And Wendy, maybe you can chime in here.
Well, and it's a platform issue, and Carnegie understands they have to be more adaptive in designing. And out of the gate, that's how they chose to design, but they're in the process of looking at that, and they respect Franklin's work, so they keep an eye on us, and they've been working with Chad and with Amy, and I don't want to say it's in prototype, but I know it's definitely in their pipeline. So we'll expect to see down the road that it's something that can be used on a Chromebook. They're even looking iPads. They know that their product, they're struggling to sell it to districts because of that. So they're working on it. It's just not a quick fix.
So it works on a Windows-based PC, but it doesn't work on an
Right.
Android
It's
device or an iPad.
Now you're asking me to talk their language. It's like
All right.
a browser thing, like that can't house Java and it needs Java
Yeah,
or
they're
something
using
like that.
Chrome, and it probably only works on
Right,
Internet Explorer.
exactly.
And you can't use Internet Explorer, okay.
Right.
So, so it's not like the Chromebooks weren't meant to be used for that. I mean, you,
We
well,
knew that ahead of time.
There's science,
Because
there's,
we have,
the teacher, I don't think the teacher knew about that at the time, or they wouldn't
Well,
have
sure
tried
they
to
did.
use.
no, they definitely knew
they
that.
definitely knew about
Oh,
that.
so, okay, so they were gonna try and use them with the Chromebooks anyway. They
No.
were gonna have to pull out the other,
Right, right. And to that issue, I know there was some concern brought to the board regarding the seniors who didn't get computers. That has really worked out quite well, and the theory behind that was the seniors would be able to bring their own devices in to use them and so on. And if they didn't have one, we would have one for them to use. We have gotten 0 complaints from any senior so far. Now, maybe some of you have if you have seniors, but we have gotten 0, and we've asked every single day, and the teachers that have access or need access to those computers have them, they're ready to go all the time. So we're in really good shape as far as usage and availability of the computers. So things have gone well. Luann will give you a better update and show you some video of the usage of these kinds of things. And there was, did I send you a little clip that was in the Now, or did you all see that clip in the Now? So it was a nice little clip about the middle school and so on, a comment by Chris. So overall, things going very well.
Just remind me, how far down did we go,
Pardon me?
grade-wise? 6th grade, Gavin?
7 through 11.
Seven.
Oh, 7th.
7
And
through
then
11, so starting
five
at the middle
next year.
school.
Next year, we'll bring it down to 5, 6.
5, 6, 2 grades at a time.
Because their curriculum mirrors middle school, so they realigned, or repurposed existing computers to bring them down so that they could deliver the curriculum accordingly with the technology needed for this year.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Thanks. Item 11, board meeting debriefing. Are there any comments? Hearing none. Item 12, future agenda items. We have the annual health report on October 29th, the at-risk report, October 29th, and the 2014-15 budget update on October 29th. Any comments or other agenda items?
Is that when the levy gets adopted, on the 29th?
I believe so. Is
They
it
set the
Mr.
levy, yeah.
Mr.
Set the levy, right?
Oh, okay.
Right, at the end of October.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Motion by Mrs. Klein, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Schluter. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. We are adjourned at 7:03.